Welcome friends to another 40k video. Today we look at the Flayed ones of the Necrons, with a particular focus on the dimension they use to travel around the galaxy. And who is their king? Friends, let's find out. So what are the Flayed? For that we look to the Necron Codex. The Flayed ones too are feared and reviled by the Necrons in society, exiled to languish in the horrific netherrealm known as the Bone Kingdom of Drazak. They are afflicted with the hideous death curse of the Satan known as the Flayer. Twisted in body and mind, Flayed ones are drawn to the scent of blood, scissoring open the flesh of reality and spilling through from their ghastly realm to fall upon the Necron's foes. The dynastic legions make every effort to avoid these beings, whose madness they fear is catching, but they can do little to stop the Flayed ones from joining battles that are already underway. Please notice the bit of scissoring open the flesh of reality. We now draw on the twice dead king, Reign by Nate Crowley. The name for this other dimension is the Ghost Wind. Altix and his fleet prepare to enter that realm. In this Ghost Wind, the battered Acrops would have its wings back, able to travel vast distances despite its crippled drives, and the Crusade would no longer be able to follow it. Then Mentep explains what is going to happen to Altix. You will know, of course, that we have long been able to confound lesser species by operating in layers of reality below the observable by use of the dimensional interstices. Well, my fellows and I established, after much labour, access to layers of meta-reality below even those, and we found the bottom, a place where concepts, entirely separate in higher realms, boiled down to a universal abstract, which was at once both everything and nothing. Mentep and others worked on using this layer as a substrata for consciousness itself. This indeed was the basis for my prototype evocatory medium, and yours that followed it. Perhaps these substrata for consciousness is linked to how the Flayed ones move intuitively, using their minds to this other realm. The Ghost Wind, as its name implies, is analogous to the Ghost Walk mantle, which a cryptech, which is someone who specializes in technology, called Dagon used. Only designed on a much grander scale, intended for fleet use, but it is still a simple protocol, which its bearer can cast, requiring no physical component. So the fleet uses it will drop into another reality and move parallel to this one, like the Unclean and the Empyrean. Mentep reacted to that, as if Altix had deposited some weak, dead vermin creature in front of him. Categorically no. No, that loathsome magic remains blessedly out of reach to our kind, in one of the few true boons our nature offers us. No, the Ghost Wind drops a vessel of vessels to a place where reality itself is an impossible concept. No. Mentet stopped and shook his head emphatically. I could explain further, but I suspect I would fall victim to the near-universal cryptech's weakness for the exposition of our own genius. The ships moved there in the end. Altix only knew the transition had happened at all some seconds after it had finished, where he noticed just how silent the void had become. There were no stars visible beyond the viewports of the bridge. But that was only the start of the emptiness. To Necron senses, the void was a loud place. It rumbled with the baritone call of gravity wells, shivered with quantum turbulence, and even in the most desolate places was parted from time to time by the shriek of radiation from distant stars. Here, though, there was nothing. According to the external thermoreceptors, the temperature beyond the hull hovered so close to absolute zero that any heat detected could well have been a measuring error, which was saying a lot given the precision of Necron instruments. If there had been a single atom to be found in this boundless dark, it would have lacked the energy even to hold electrons to its core. But there were no atoms out there. There was no matter at all. This place is so strange that they have to use basic radio waves to communicate with the other ships, as nothing else works, as it affects the Necron technologies. The more advanced ones that rely on logical principles, they also fail. Can you believe, Mentep, that in all our discussion of your conclave's work and the applications of this strange reality we travel through even now, we never touched on the role it might play for the victims of your longing sickness? And what role do you suppose that is? Asked Mentep without emotion. They are said to have secret places, are they not? a reality all of their own, it is said, where they heap their corpses, though they can get there back by burrowing through reality. Altix found himself spitting the word as anger rose unbidden, a hole meant for them to hide in. Altix later finds his ship has been carrying flayed ones on board, protected by Mentep. He finds and disposes of them. There are many bodies there that have been eaten to sustain them, and it is here that the flayed who are around Altix, he realizes that, in fact, they listen to him, and that he, in fact, is one of them. It's explained to be flayed, to be one of those creatures. It is described as a hunger Altix, nothing more. Hunger for what is lost, for what could yet be. Hunger that knows no reason. Hunger for the bodies we threw away in Zarek's war. This is what Mentep told me of. Yes, in the end, only flesh will feed it, but we all find other substitutes to stave it off. We find obsessions to keep it at bay, compulsions, discipline, tradition, power, violence, recklessness. Hundreds of the flayed arrived and gave a hunter shriek, and they were hailing their king. If he had found a way to describe it, Altix would have said that moving through the ghost wind was like clambering through a tunnel in deep rock. You saw the place you wished to be, and then you hauled yourself towards it, with the distinct sensation that you were also hauling it towards you. And so Altix had peered into the bridge as they had tunneled, and he had seen the faces of his enemies at last, and had fought alongside his subjects. And after they emerge in real space, he's hailed as the twice dead king. And so they settle a planet, and there is left some ancient seat of authority. Altix began to ascend the steps to the entrance, watched by the countless eyes of the flayed ones. Now, as he walked into the barren hall, the light that shone through its tall, thin windows, and perhaps it was a little brighter, now illuminated only one object in the whole of the interior, a plain white throne, carved from the stone dais on which it stood. On the seat of the throne lay a slender crown, carved from the same bone-pale material as the city, and on its brow a single amber sigil matched the engraving above the doorway. If any king had ruled here, it seemed his reign had ended long ago, or it was yet to begin, and Altix took his place on Drazak and took up the mantle of Valgal, the fallen lord, the mythical Flayer king. And that, friends, is where I end today's video. So it's made to question if Altix has always been the Flayer king, or took up that mantle as one that's been passed on from one king to the next. And Drazak itself, that planet, I didn't want to clog up the ending there with the planet's significance. It is a Necron tomb world located within the Gull Stars. Flayed ones are exiled there and have populated the entire world. They fight over what little is still edible to them, and the Flay King's fleets go out and raid for blood and flesh to feed his people.